Meghan encouraged the ventures. Meghan encouraged the anger and the hatred and seeing enemies and paranoia.
One best-selling author allegedly dug up secrets about Meghan Markle that the palace had tried to keep buried for years. Tom Bower, known as one of Britain's most relentless investigative journalists, spent months diving deep into the private life of the Duchess of Sussex, and what he uncovered reportedly sent shockwaves straight through the royal circle.
I wrote a very critical book of Prince Charles 4 years ago, which he hated.
Bower's claims paint a very different picture from the one Meghan has shown the world. But the real question is, did he cross a line, or did he just say what others were too afraid to put out there? This story pulls back the curtain on the explosive claims he brought forward and why people everywhere are still talking about it.
I began thinking about Meghan other than I thought she behaved so badly, and Harry too.
Tom Bower is not some random gossip writer chasing headlines. He built his name as a serious investigative journalist and author, spending decades exposing the hidden lives of powerful figures across the globe. Born on September 28, 1946, he started out at BBC Panorama, one of the UK's most respected investigative programs, and quickly built a reputation for digging where others wouldn't dare. Over the years, he has written more than 25 unauthorized biographies, going after some of the biggest names out there. From billionaires like Robert Maxwell and Richard Branson to political heavyweights like Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, even members of the royal family have been in his spotlight.
Meghan's version, she just let Meghan's version go by the ball, and I think that was wrong. But I thought that was a terrible indictment of Meghan.
His earlier book, Rebel Prince, took a hard look at King Charles long before he became king. He also picked up the William Hill Sportsbook of the Year award in 2003 for Broken Dreams, which exposed corruption in English football. Bower's whole mindset has always been simple. No one is off limits, and the more power someone has, the more they should be questioned. So when Bower turned his attention to Meghan Markle, things escalated fast. His 2022 book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors shot straight to #1 and had everyone talking. Critics called it explosive, claiming it revealed the inside story of Meghan's rise, from a working actress in Hollywood to a woman who allegedly caused major tension inside the royal family. Bower didn't just rely on surface-level info either. He carried out deep research, speaking to insiders, former colleagues, palace staff, diplomats, and even people connected to Meghan's own family. Some of these voices had reportedly never spoken publicly before, which made the claims hit even harder. The book stretched across 464 pages and showed a side of Meghan that many people said they had never seen before. It wasn't just the claims that made it risky, it was also Bower's reputation. He's known for getting close enough to the truth that it makes people uncomfortable, and that's exactly why his work gets so much attention. In the past, powerful figures have tried to shut him down with legal threats and pressure, but that hasn't stopped him. His name carries weight, and when he releases something, people pay attention. Reports suggested that once the book dropped, the palace went into damage control mode, while Meghan's team pushed back, calling parts of it inaccurate and misleading. But by then, the story was already everywhere. Headlines exploded across major newspapers and entertainment outlets, and people couldn't stop reading. One of the biggest talking points had nothing to do with royal life. It focused on Meghan's past before she ever met Prince Harry. According to Bower, her early life was shaped by strong ambition, careful moves, and a clear drive to succeed. He described a Hollywood journey that wasn't as simple or as magical as it may have seemed later on. Meghan Markle grew up near Hollywood, raised in part by her father, Thomas Markle, a respected lighting director who worked on shows like General Hospital and even won Emmy Awards. He provided a comfortable life, including a home in Woodland Hills and access to industry connections that many people only dream about. Her older brother, Tom Jr., once shared that their father adored Meghan from the very beginning. He even decorated parts of their home with angels and fairies, creating a warm and loving space for her. According to Bower's sources, Meghan's childhood was filled with support, but her ambitions showed up early and only grew stronger over time. Bower described her career path as a real grind. She took on small roles, including work on game shows like Deal or No Deal as a briefcase model, along with short TV appearances before finally landing bigger opportunities. It wasn't overnight success. It was a climb, step by step, with hustle behind every move. Meghan's role as Rachel Zane on Suits in 2011 gave her steady work and a solid paycheck, but it didn't deliver the level of fame she was chasing. According to Bower, she felt stuck in that space, wanting more attention, more influence, and a bigger name in the spotlight. That drive pushed her to start a lifestyle blog called The Tig, where she shared her thoughts while also building connections with powerful figures in fashion and media. Bower claimed she was strategic about who she met and when, making sure she showed up in the right circles at the right time. He also suggested that she sometimes reshaped parts of her past, presenting a more polished version of her life where she always came out looking strong and in control. Then came the moment that would change everything. Her introduction to Prince Harry in the summer of 2016. According to Bauer's sources, she already knew who he was and understood how big that meeting could be. What may have seemed like a simple blind date quickly turned into something much bigger. Before their relationship was even fully public, Meghan spoke with Vanity Fair in 2017 about her romance with Harry. Bauer claimed the palace had clearly advised her not to mention him, but she did anyway, even though there were later attempts to manage. The story was already out there, and it reportedly caused tension behind palace walls. That moment, according to Bauer, set the tone for future issues. He also examined Meghan's earlier marriage to film producer Trevor Engelson, which ended in 2013 after less than 2 years. The split, as described in the book, came across as sudden and unexpected. Engelson was reportedly left stunned when his wedding ring was mailed back to him, a move that people close to him described as cold and calculated. Friends of Engelson told Bauer that the relationship seemed to end long before it was officially over, suggesting Meghan had already moved on emotionally. While not everyone agrees with that view, Bauer used it to support his broader claim that she approached relationships and connections with careful planning, always thinking about what came next. But even with all her past experiences, nothing quite prepared her for stepping into the royal spotlight. According to Bauer, what followed was far from a smooth transition. It was more like a slow-building clash that nobody publicly saw coming. He described Meghan's entry into the royal family as a situation where expectations didn't match reality. His sources claimed she arrived at Kensington Palace expecting a more modern, celebrity-style approach, but instead walked into a system built on tradition and strict protocol. From early on, Bauer alleged there were disagreements with palace staff over schedules, communication, and media handling. Meghan reportedly wanted a fast, proactive approach similar to Hollywood PR, where negative stories are shut down quickly and image is tightly controlled. The palace, on the other hand, followed long-standing rules that didn't bend easily. This gap in expectations reportedly caused ongoing tension. Bauer claimed Meghan struggled to understand why her requests weren't immediately followed, while staff were working within a system that prioritized the institution over any one individual. The book also included serious claims about her behavior toward staff, alleging that she could be harsh in certain situations. Bauer wrote that there were moments of tension involving employees and even diplomats during official trips. One reported incident described her reacting strongly during travel, though accounts like this remain disputed and part of wider debate. He also pointed to pressure inside the household, saying Prince Harry would often focus heavily on negative media coverage. According to the book, both Meghan and Harry would check for critical headlines and then push their team to respond quickly, creating a stressful environment for staff. Bauer claimed this mix of pressure, frustration, and constant media attention made things difficult behind the scenes. Some staff members reportedly felt overwhelmed, with a few eventually stepping away from their roles. At the center of it all, Bauer argued, was a major misunderstanding. Meghan reportedly expected the palace to protect and promote her personal image, while the institution operated with a much broader focus on the entire royal family. According to his account, this disconnect led to repeated clashes. Meghan was described as feeling isolated and restricted, while palace insiders viewed her approach as disruptive to tradition. During this time, she also leaned on close friends like Jessica and Ben Mulroney, who joined her on the Australia tour to offer support. Even in the middle of global attention and royal duties, she reportedly kept a tight circle around her as the pressure kept building. Even with 4 palace staff already assigned to help her, Meghan was given extra support from Samantha Cohen, a trusted aide who had worked closely with Queen Elizabeth for years. She was only supposed to stay for 6 months, but ended up remaining for 18 months because no one else wanted to step into that role. Cohen later revealed she was one of 10 staff members interviewed during an internal investigation into bullying claims. She described the experience of working with Meghan and Harry as difficult, even comparing it to dealing with teenagers at times. And when a replacement was finally found, that person reportedly quit in the middle of a royal tour in Africa with the Sussexes. The constant staff turnover didn't go unnoticed. Inside palace circles, people allegedly began using the nickname Duchess Difficult, as tensions behind the scenes kept building. What started as quiet friction was getting ready to explode into something much more public, and no one expected it would happen on global television. Then came the moment that changed everything, the Oprah interview. On March 7, 2021, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sat down with Oprah Winfrey for a 2-hour interview that grabbed worldwide attention instantly. The conversation sent shockwaves through the royal family and sparked intense reactions across the globe. During the interview, Meghan made several powerful claims. She said there had been concerns within the royal family about how dark her unborn son Archie's skin might be. She also opened up about struggling with serious mental health challenges during her time as a working royal, saying she had asked for help but didn't receive the support she needed. She pushed back on tabloid stories too. Meghan denied reports that she had made Kate Middleton cry before the 2018 wedding over flower girl dresses, saying instead that the situation had been reversed, and that Kate later apologized and sent flowers. Another major claim was that the palace protected other members of the family by controlling narratives, but didn't do the same for her. These statements quickly became headline news and fueled debate everywhere. But Tom Bower's book challenged parts of Meghan's version of events. He said his sources inside the palace told a different story. According to Bower, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles had encouraged Meghan to repair her relationship with her father, Thomas Markle, before the wedding, but that idea was reportedly rejected. He also described Meghan's first meeting with Harry's longtime friends from Eton during a weekend gathering. According to Bower, they found her serious and not easy to connect with, possibly clashing over their sense of humor, which included jokes about sensitive topics. Bower claimed those same friends later messaged each other expressing surprise at Harry's relationship, with some even questioning his decisions. These accounts added another layer to the already intense public discussion. One of the most talked about claims in Bower's book involved Prince Philip's funeral in April 2021. Meghan, who was pregnant at the time, stayed in California while Harry returned to the UK alone. Bower reported that when Queen Elizabeth was informed Meghan would not attend, she allegedly reacted with relief. However, this claim was strongly disputed by sources close to the Queen, who said her focus was entirely on mourning her husband, not anything else. While all of this played out, the biggest shift wasn't just inside the palace, it was happening in Hollywood, where Harry and Meghan had placed their future. After stepping back from royal duties in early 2020, the couple moved to Montecito, California, and quickly secured major deals. Their Netflix agreement was reportedly worth around $100 million, while their Spotify deal came in at about $20 million. The goal was clear. They wanted to build a media empire and become financially independent, using their global recognition to create content on their own terms. At first, things seemed to be going exactly as planned. Their Netflix documentary, Harry and Meghan, became one of the platform's biggest documentary debuts when it dropped in late 2022. Meghan also launched her Spotify podcast, Archetypes, where she explored stereotypes about women and brought on major names like Serena Williams, Paris Hilton, and Mariah Carey. The show climbed to #1 in several countries and even picked up a People's Choice Award. But not everyone was convinced this success would last. Tom Bower and other critics had already warned that the Sussex brand might be too dependent on controversy rather than long-term creative output. Bower argued that Meghan's ambitions often stretched beyond what could realistically be maintained, and that working relationships behind the scenes were not always smooth. By 2023, questions were starting to grow louder about whether their Hollywood strategy could truly hold up under pressure, or if the cracks were already beginning to show. Those early warnings started to look real when Spotify suddenly ended its deal with Archewell Audio after just one season of Archetypes. Reports claimed the platform expected a steady stream of content, but nearly 3 years after signing, only one series had been delivered. The agreement reportedly required both Harry and Meghan to create and host their own shows, but that didn't fully happen. There were even claims that Harry struggled to land on a clear idea for his podcast, which only added to the tension behind the scenes. Then came the backlash, and it was loud. Spotify executive Bill Simmons didn't hold back on his own podcast, calling Harry and Meghan frauds. He said he felt embarrassed to be associated with them on the same platform and openly questioned what Harry actually contributed. Jeremy Zimmer, CEO of United Talent Agency, also spoke out at the Cannes Advertising Festival, saying Meghan wasn't a strong audio talent and that fame alone doesn't equal skill. Even big names reportedly kept their distance. Taylor Swift was said to have declined an invitation to appear on Archetypes. At the same time, things inside Archewell started to shift fast. Several high-level staff members, including President Mandana, Diani, head of communications, Toya Holness, and head of audio, Rebecca Sananes, left within a short span. That kind of turnover raised eyebrows and added more pressure to an already shaky situation. The Netflix deal wasn't looking stable either. Reports suggested multiple projects pitched by the couple were either rejected or quietly dropped. An animated children's series called Pearl was scrapped, along with at least 2 other ideas that never made it to production. Their follow-up project, Live to Lead, failed to break into Netflix's top 10 rankings, which didn't help confidence inside the company. Sources claimed executives were growing frustrated, feeling that aside from the initial Harry and Meghan documentary, there wasn't much to show for such a massive investment. Bauer's take was blunt. He suggested the couple had traded the structure and security of royal life for the unpredictability of Hollywood. And in that world, output matters more than image, and titles don't carry the same weight. While their business ventures were facing setbacks, the personal side of Meghan's story was also unraveling in a very public way. One of the most emotional parts of Bauer's book focused on her relationship with her father, Thomas Markle. Bauer spent time interviewing him, and Thomas described himself as a devoted parent who felt completely cut off from his daughter's life after she entered the royal spotlight. According to his account, he played a major role in raising Meghan during her younger years, supporting her ambitions and using his own money to give her opportunities he believed she deserved. While Meghan has often spoken about her close bond with her mother, Doria Ragland, Bauer's research suggested that for long periods of her childhood, it was actually her father who was the main caregiver. The relationship between Meghan and Thomas reportedly broke down just before the royal wedding in May 2018. Thomas was caught staging paparazzi photos, which created embarrassment and tension at a critical moment. Soon after, he suffered serious health issues, including heart attacks that required surgery, preventing him from attending the wedding. The situation quickly turned into a public fallout, covered heavily across media outlets. Thomas later gave interviews where he criticized both Meghan and Harry, claiming they were damaging the royal family. Meghan, in response, wrote him a deeply personal letter, which later became part of a legal case involving a British newspaper. In that letter, she told him he had broken her heart, revealing just how strained things had become. Bauer's version of events suggested that blame could be shared on both sides, but he appeared to show more sympathy toward Thomas, portraying him as a father who felt pushed aside once his daughter no longer needed his support. What started as a private family issue had turned into a global story filled with emotion, conflict, and unanswered questions that still keep people talking today. In December 2025, Thomas Markle faced a serious health crisis that led to emergency surgery for a blood clot in his left leg, resulting in an amputation below the knee. The situation quickly made headlines, and a spokesperson for Meghan confirmed that she would reach out to her father during this difficult time. Bauer also dug into Prince Harry's ongoing struggles with the royal family, painting a picture of relationships that had clearly broken down. He claimed Harry's bond with his brother William had become so distant that they barely spoke anymore, while King Charles had reportedly stopped taking Harry's calls during the couple's exit from royal life. Harry himself admitted in the Oprah interview that he still loved his brother, but said there was a gap between them. That gap only seemed to grow wider after the interview aired, and even more after Harry released his memoir Spare, which added more tension to an already fragile situation. Bauer framed the entire story in a very specific way. He described Harry as someone still deeply affected by the loss of his mother, and suggested he had been influenced by Meghan, who he claimed knew how to present herself as a victim in difficult situations. That take immediately sparked backlash, with Meghan's supporters calling it unfair, one-sided, and heavily biased. No matter which version people believe, the fallout is real. The divide within the royal family isn't just tabloid talk, it's a long-term fracture that continues to shape their public image and personal legacy. Then comes the bigger question: what impact did Tom Bauer actually leave behind? His book Revenge didn't just sell copies, it changed the entire conversation around Meghan Markle. Before its release, opinions were mostly split into two loud camps: those who supported her completely and those who criticized her just as strongly. After the book dropped, things got more detailed and more intense. People began digging into specific claims, questioning timelines, and comparing public interviews with behind-the-scenes accounts from people who had worked with her. Bauer gave critics something concrete to point at, using named sources and documented events. At the same time, supporters had clear claims to push back against, which made the debate even louder and more focused. And the conversation didn't slow down. In 2024 and 2025, new bullying allegations surfaced, and each time they did, Bauer's book was pulled right back into the spotlight. A major Vanity Fair article marking 5 years since Harry and Meghan left the UK included comments from former staff who said they needed therapy after their experiences working with Meghan. Bauer argued that stories like these damaged Meghan's public image, especially the version of herself she was trying to present in California. He also pointed out that many of these staff members likely signed strict confidentiality agreements, so the fact they spoke out suggested just how strongly they felt. Meghan and her team have firmly denied all bullying claims, calling them part of a coordinated smear campaign. Supporters say Bauer's work relies too heavily on negative sources and presents a one-sided narrative designed to bring her down. They also highlight that even within his book, there are moments where Meghan is described as warm, driven, and impressive, suggesting the full picture is far more complicated than the headlines make it seem. Another key point raised is that Bauer did not have access to Meghan's closest inner circle, as those individuals reportedly chose not to participate. That absence, supporters argue, leaves out an important side of the story. In the end, Bauer's work puts forward a sharp contrast. Meghan can be seen either as someone navigating a difficult system under pressure or as someone carefully using her position to her advantage. His book raises bigger questions about fame, image control, and what really happens when personal stories collide with powerful institutions. It also shows how quickly narratives can shift depending on who is telling the story and what evidence they bring with them. The truth likely sits somewhere in the middle, shaped by media spin, legal limits, private conflicts, and public perception. One thing is clear though, Bauer pulled private issues into the spotlight, and people are still debating them today. So what do you think? Did Tom Bauer expose the real Meghan Markle, or did he simply tell the version that sells the most books? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget, like, share, and subscribe for more. Check out the next video on your screen because you don't want to miss what's coming next.